We continue our conversation with the Children's Authority, and I welcome back Ahelia Ramdas, psychologist of the Assessment Unit of the Children's Authority, to join us on set as we discuss children's safety for Carnival, but with the side activities. We're talking Carnival camps and things of that nature. Good morning to you, Ahelia. Welcome back.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having us in the program once more.
Not a problem. So we're talking Carnival camps this week. Tell me some of the things that we can do to make sure that these camps are safe for our children in the first place.
Well, we're doing the same thing we're doing in any other circumstance, right? We're checking our facts. We're making sure that we know where our children are going. We're making sure that we know the individuals that are going to be present with our children. So it's always a good idea. Let's not take it for granted that they're going to, camp with their church or camp with this particular group or club. Let's ask the tough questions. Exactly who are the adults going to be present? What is the plan for supervision? What is the plan for safety? So make sure we ask all of those questions and make sure we talk through the number of days, the types of activities that's going to be happening with our children so that they're aware, they know what's going to be happening. And my colleague Crystal mentioned last week, you do certain role play situations where you talk through, well, what if this happens? What if there's a fire? What if, there's no adult present and an accident happens? What would you do? So you role play, you talk through these activities or these potential incidents with children so that you get a sense of what they know and, how they could potentially respond in a situation. You make sure they know emergency numbers. You make sure they know, keep your cell phones on, keep your cell phones with you, so that in case of an emergency, I can get in contact with you, you can get in contact with me, and also, hey, pop in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's especially if you're sending your younger kids, it doesn't matter the age of the child actually, but pop in to see what's happening, make sure they're okay. And that's, in terms of camps, even staying over at relatives, some prisons, they send their kids.
How important is it for the children to be aware of the directions to get in or out of the area that they are?
So I think it's very important. So any camp or type of activity like that, they're going to do their typical emergency, responses with the kids at the start. So they're going to say where the muster points are, they're going to say where the exits are, what to do in the situations. But it's always good to go through these things with your children as well. Make sure, because this is a general thing at a camp, but your child, you know how your child thinks, responds, so you want to make sure and you go through that with them one-on-one, you hear what they have to say, and then you give them the appropriate feedback so that they know what to do.
So I want us to break down some of the tough questions that you mentioned before that you need to ask if you're going to be able to put your child in a camp. What are some of the things that you need to check off and you need to say, all right, I need to make sure this is in place and that is in place? Because some parents may just be, they never did it before, so I'll send them and I trust the people that it's the church people, I go send them and I go be all right. But what are some of the things, the boxes that we need to check off and make sure?
Okay. So you need to make sure your children are aware of all emergency contacts. So you need to know how to get in contact with the police at 999. You need to know how to get in contact with the Children's Authority at 996 or the ambulance at 811. So they have to know the emergency numbers. But it's also very important that we explicitly teach our children how to recognize danger. So signs of sexual abuse, signs of physical abuse, bullying, all of these things, your children need to be aware of it. You need to have those real-time conversations with them so that they're aware if someone approaches you in this particular way and you don't feel safe, you need to move away. You need to tell a trusted adult. If someone puts their hand on you, what do? If someone is saying threatening things to you, you need to know, move away, tell an adult, or how to respond. Give me a call, let me know what's going on. So you need to actually have those conversations and never take it for granted that it's a safe situation. Because we live in a time where, let's be real, it's not like long time. It's not like long time because you have to, as we've been saying consistently, the main perpetrators of abuse toward children are always someone that is known, close to them. So
what age do we start having this conversation?
So you can start having this conversation with your kids as early as 5, 6, as early, depending on their maturity level, what you want to be mindful of is using appropriate language. So, you're going to break it down to their level. At the younger ones, just be mindful of the words that you use. It's important to teach them the right words.
Right.
So you don't want to shy away from penis, vagina, breast. You don't want to shy away from words like that. You need to use the real words. But in terms of how you talk about the abuse or the signs of danger, you have to break it down a little bit for the younger ones. And for the older ones, you just have to be clear. This is what it is. This is what you look for. Stay away from these things. Let someone know if someone has put their hands on you in any way that is not appropriate, makes you feel unsafe. And feeling unsafe varies from child to child. So someone doesn't have to touch you on your butt or touch you on your chest for you to feel unsafe. If someone touches you on your arm, on your back, and it makes you feel uncomfortable, then move away. Teach them that it's okay to move away, to know what it feels like to respect their own bodies and their own space.
I think that's very, very important, and especially the part about using the right names for your body parts, because oftentimes I've seen children come and complain, or I hear children complain about somebody do something to their cookie, or whatever the case is, and nobody understands what they're saying because they're thinking that they steal my cookie or you do some kind of thing like that. So I've always found it very strange when parents choose to not use the real. But why do you think that is, that people shy away from using the actual names?
Taboo, cultural taboo. It's not, it's not something comfortable, or it's never been something comfortable to talk about with your children, sex and body parts and all of these things. And you think children are children, they don't need to know these things. So, that's the long time mentality.
Yeah.
And now we're in this space where children know a lot.
And
they're
the information
exposed
is so
to a
easily
lot.
accessible.
Information is so accessible, and you want to make sure they have the right information. So you want to make sure that you have the appropriate conversation, so they're not learning it from a source that is not accurate, or one that would give them erroneous information or harmful information mixed in with some bits of good, so that they're growing or going off with the wrong ideas.
Now, also, one of the things that people tend to do at Carnival time is leave their children with, trusted family members, as the case may be. What are some of the things we need to check off, even with family members, to make sure that, we know we're going to be safe and we're comfortable?
So you really have to have an appreciation of the level of trust that you have with this person. So you have to be sure it's a trusted adult. You have to know how your children feel in their presence at their space, and it's looking beyond, well, I don't want to go by granny because granny don't have Netflix, and they're sour and they're sulky. It has to come down to, if you have a relationship with your child, if you know your children, you'd know what makes them uncomfortable. So you have to know your kid's comfort level there. You have to know that person's track record with children, how they approach challenges, how they approach discipline, how they approach, emergencies. You have to know all of these things, and then it doesn't matter who it is. It could be mommy, daddy, a sister, whomever. You have to be willing to have the conversation with them in situations like X, Y, and Z. This is how I would like you to treat with my children, or this is what they know. And so you have to be clear as a parent what you would like, what is important, what your children know, what are the steps that need to be taken. And you have to also be comfortable knowing that that person appreciates or respects that this is your view, this is the way you've chosen to raise your children, protect your children, and that level of respect and open communication needs to be there. So you just have to be mindful of that.
Can we discuss that? One of those things you mentioned just now was disciplining the children. I know that lots of people have different views on how you discipline children. Is there a best practice? Or a practice that you would advise? Because I know a lot of parents struggle with it in terms of, they don't want to beat the child. They don't want to beat them into submission, even though that may have been done to them. And they say, I want to break that cycle, or whatever the case is. But they find it so difficult to find ways to discipline children.
Well, that's a whole long other conversation. It's so much to fit into this really tiny segment. But in terms of disciplining children, it's important that you appreciate that a trusting relationship is the foundation for parenting. And that lends easily to using positive discipline methods. So people laugh when they say, well, ban them from something, or have time-ins, not time-outs. So, instead of sending them in a corner, have them come be with you, talk things through. People laugh because they think these things not going to work. How is that going to work? But the catch in it is that you have to have a solid relationship with your child, respect, mutual trust, for those types of strategies to actually work. So we don't want to recommend punishment or beating our kids, right? Because where's the line? Where's the line with a few taps in your hand versus abuse. Because oftentimes when you're in a situation, you're angry, you respond emotionally, where's the control? So we don't want to advocate for physical methods. We don't want to advocate for punishment. Punishment and discipline are two different things. Punishment deals with shame, humiliation, pain. Discipline deals with guidance and correction and teaching the appropriate or the alternative ways to approach a situation or do things. So we want to just always be mindful of that.
How much discipline do we need before we get to punishment? Do we ever get to punishment?
We should never get to punishment. Punishment is harsh. The purpose of punishment is to humiliate and to belittle and to cause or inflict pain. And as an adult, would you like to be punished?
I mean, if I'm being stubborn about learning the lessons that come with discipline, and I only say this because, sometimes as a parent, I can say that, you've tried. I tried talking to you. I talked to you once. I talked to you twice. We went through the guidance. I tried the guidance, and it's been months. It's been whatever. And I've seen parents get so frustrated that they get to a point where, okay, so you want to embarrass me. Let me embarrass you instead and see how you feel about it. And you said that one of the things is punishment. Embarrassment would fall under punishment, right? But is there a line there at all, or do we just stay away from all those things?
So we stay away from all those things because our harsh words and humiliation can scar a child, can create trauma, psychological trauma that they carry. And then it's a cycle that you're perpetuating. So you want to stay away from that harsh humiliation and those types of punishment. It carries into as you grow and into your adulthood. Does it also serve
as a reality check sometimes?
I mean, you would see it that way.
No, and I ask that based on like if it is that a child thinks that they can do things without consequence, and even when you explain the consequences to them, or you give them some of the time ins or the guidance or all that good talking to and all that stuff, and they still continue to perpetuate it.
So that's a common misconception.
Right.
People have this idea that if we're not beating or punishing, then there are no consequences, but that's not true. Consequences are inbuilt into discipline. So you still have to do without something that you like or want. You
and that's still is that a form of punishment?
That's discipline.
That's discipline.
But you explicitly communicate this to your children. You talk it through. When you do X, Y, and Z, these are the consequences.
Right.
And I can love you. I can forgive you for whatever you've done if it's something really terrible. But at the end of the day, it doesn't take you away or get you off of the consequence of this particular action. So it's important to be mindful of the type of incident or the type of infraction, right? The discipline method must match it. It can't be that they spill a cup of juice on your nice carpet and you ban them for a month from something. Or, you lock them up in the room, no dinner for you.
It depends on how much your carpet costs.
You use the opportunity to teach your children daily living skills, self-care. So you teach them how to clean it up and you tell them, okay, well, that's how you deal with a situation. I guess you don't, jump off the handle for something small like that. So it's just it's a lot that we can talk about, but what I would say to parents is that when you start building a trusting, open relationship with your children from young, having open lines of communication, letting them know that it's safe to come and talk to you, that even when you're upset or even when they do something that you might think is bad, wrong, it's still okay to come to you and talk about it. And as they grow, that trust is going to grow and it's going to be easier to deal with situations that come your way. Can you start with older children, adolescent children? Yes, you can. It's just a little bit more difficult and you have to push through that difficult time. And eventually, if you hold strain, if you commit to it, you're going to get to where you want to be.
I think that's a great place to leave it for this morning, Ahelia. Thank you so much for joining us yet again.
Welcome.
I look forward to continuing this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get onto them, you can give them a call at the hotline 996 or 800-2014. You can also call the child line at 131 or 800-4321. Children's Authority representing on the Now Morning Show. We take a quick break and come back with more. Stay tuned.